Mai te kāhui maunga ki Tangaroa, ko au te awa, ko te awa ko au. Ka nui te mihi ki a koutou, ko tai mai nei ki te wakanui tēnei kaupapa o te Whānau Ora. Tēnā tātou. I had great thoughts, probably not very good thoughts, when I was thinking about speaking today after being here for 3 days, listening to the nonsense of politicians. I think that for me today is about a call to arms. I am really serious. And so what I want us to do is to link our arms together so that when we become frustrated by the politicians of the day, that we know that together we stand for something and together we will win this fight, and we must win it. Not for you and I, not for the work that we do, but for our whānau. So I mihi to all of you for the great work that all of you have done. I want to start off with a quote from one of our cousins from home, Rangitihi Tahu Pārai, and he said to us that it has been since the time we as Māori have been immersed in the knowledge streams of others. They have attempted to graft our branch to that of a foreign tree, which has produced fruit of a substandard quality and somewhat unpalatable. It is time that we returned to the rootstock of our ancestors. And I think that we all need to think about that. I think that for too long we have believed in and followed the ways of others. And it hasn't done us any good, actually. It hasn't done us any good. We might like to try and think it has. And for those of us of mixed heritage, we often get embarrassed to kind of say things like that, because if you're anything like my family, they remind me about who I am. But anyway, I am pleased to be here to share these days with you in the context of our conference theme of affirming whānau aspirations. In the Ngata Dictionary, the word aspiration is defined by 4 words: wakangākau, kaingākau, wawata and tūmanako. Those 4 words are then variously interpreted into a myriad of other words: fantasy, daydream, wishes, yearning, a longing, and aim to be heartfelt and to be hopeful. What could be seen as an exercise in semantics is in reality a reminder of our world as te ao Māori is vastly, distinctly different to that of te ao hurihuri. The way we see our whānau, the concepts within which we describe ourselves, the means of measuring success, the explanations and the analysis are proudly Indigenous. Indeed, the very basis of what we know as whānau is written into our hearts and practice as being synonymous with giving birth, to be born of, a group of people bound together by common genealogy. It is not a Māori translation of family. It is our word, it is our construct, it is our definition. 5 years ago, Te Kupenga, the first official survey of Māori wellbeing, I get scared to use that word after listening to it these days, but the official survey of Māori wellbeing was designed with Māori values and priorities in mind. Over 500,000 Māori responded to the whānau description questions in Te Kupenga, and Dr. Tahu Kukutai summarised their views. And she said the findings clearly affirmed the preeminence of whakapapa relationships as the foundation of whānau. The vast majority of Māori, and 99%, think of their whānau in terms of genealogical relationships. However, the breadth of those relationships varies greatly. And I remember Tamati Kruger once saying, "Whakapapa makes us accountable." My mother-in-law used to share a similar view when I married and took on the Turia name. And her words to me was, "Think of that name when you say what you do." I don't know why she would say that to me. But whakapapa encapsulates a set of relationships, of obligations and privileges, a system of accountability between members of whānau, hapu and iwi, and connecting the past with the present and the future. It keeps us honest, connected, answerable. At the launch of Whānau Ora 8 years ago in April 2010, my good friend Dame Nada Glavish told us all that what we should expect of Whānau Ora. She said whānau is central to our well-being, that it is not simply mum and dad and the kids. It is our ancestors and those not yet born. If we honour our whānau connections, the model of whānau in a holistic sense will give us our mana back, our well-being and our health. Whānau Ora will enable us to end need and to end dependence and to end helplessness amongst our people. What a great dream to have and what a great thing to believe in. I wanted to go back over some of these definitions of Whānau Ora because it seems in recent days that everyone seems to want to describe themselves as champions of well-being. We are told that we need to set up well-being centres, our focus being turned towards an emphasis on whānau development or social well-being, with the words Whānau Ora left behind. We have Statistics New Zealand urging us to fill in their survey. What is well-being? We have the Prime Minister developing a child wellbeing strategy. Treasury is supposedly leading the world and putting wellbeing and living standards at the centre of how the government functions. The Living Standards Framework. $1 million a year has been set aside for a youth health and wellbeing strategy. One hopes that some of that $1 million goes beyond a strategy into direct resourcing for our rangatahi to do for themselves. The Minister for Social Development is seeking New Zealanders' views on social wellbeing and how to protect and use people's personal information. Thank you. The Social Investment Unit is asking us to share our data to have a say. And of course, we're all gearing up for 2019, the year of the wellbeing budget. I think you get the picture. But the fact that wellbeing has become in vogue, it doesn't mean it is going to be the new nirvana for our whānau aspirations. On the first day of this conference, Richard Kennedy shared with us the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, a global agenda adopted by the United Nations in 2015 to transform the world. Yet despite the efforts of several global networks collaborating under the banner "The Future We Want Includes Culture," none of the 17 goals focuses exclusively on the vital role of identity, of connection and belonging. Similarly, here in Aotearoa, the much acclaimed Living Standards Framework has left culture out of its 4 capitals, defending this approach in a paper by Connell Smith, that it becomes a way to ghettoise minority cultural issues. And yet I recall the statement shared with us on Monday by Tim Ireland. Culture is not a perk for an Aboriginal child. It is a lifetime. I want to challenge this notion that culture could be incongruous with the concept of intergenerational well-being, because it raises an alert that simply adding the word wellbeing into the policy title doesn't mean any great change will occur for whānau, and most particularly for the application of Whānau Ora. With 140 plus reviews scrutinising every aspect of government policy and the explicit monitoring of our Whānau Ora commissioning agencies by the Whānau Ora Review Panel, we are more than familiar with being under the public spotlight, and some may say that it's actually nothing new. But what we are not seeing in all of these reviews is how are all of the big spending super ministries, the sector silo departments performing when it comes to Whānau Ora? Are we seeing the books of the Education Ministry, of Oranga Tamariki, of Vote Health, being pulled out for how they impact on whānau outcomes? Is the State Services Commission Is the State Services Commission being asked to report on those departments who understand how to support Whānau Ora? Do we see the Office of the Auditor General asking for a line-by-line review of expenditure by all core government appropriations on making Whānau Ora sustainable? As Mate Roa Ma told us in the economic panel on Monday, Why would you not redistribute that wealth? Last week, the Herald reported on a case in which a mother whose son was placed in state care because she was in a violent relationship. She is being forced to pay $92 an hour to visit him. In order to be able to maintain contact with her son, she could see him at a supervised centre through Bernardo's, where she pays an hourly fee of $92, as well as an initial assessment process which costs $250. Just 10 days ago in the Mana Wahine kaupapa inquiry, Jean Te Huia, on behalf of herself and Ngā Maia Māori Midwives Trust, Māori Women in Pepe told us how Māori women are being treated by the new flagship agency of Oranga Tamariki. Over the last 3 years, 574 babies were placed in government care before they were 1 month old. In 2017, at least 45 babies were taken the day that they were born. More than half of these newborns were uplifted from young Māori mothers. How does this add to the wellbeing of that whānau, that mokopuna, that mother? How do the living standards of our nation benefit from the seemingly disproportionate removal of Māori babies? What is wrong with this picture? This does not equate with my understanding of intergenerational wellbeing, of relationships which are multi-layered, flexible and informed by the values, histories and traditions of our tūpuna. What we've heard over these last 3 days is the illustration of the richness of eke pānuku, a journey of success that is both dynamic and continuous. We have heard that whānau are the decision makers and drivers of change in their journey to success. We appreciate how we can achieve intergenerational outcomes by the collaborations that we create. We have talked about sustainability, investment, leadership and transformation. Our way, our words and our world. We cannot afford to be complacent. We must never let words divide us. I am intolerant of any approach that seeks to provoke attack within. This hui is not a battleground to compare urban versus iwi, to promote provider ora rather than Whānau Ora, or for that matter to campaign for Labour or the Māori Party. Our greatest opportunity lies in recognising our shared passions and priorities. As Irina Makaire most told us on Monday, sorry, I've lost a week. Let's use this hui to promote common unity, the reggae band and the kaupapa. 17 years ago on this day, 12th of September 1981, the third and deciding rugby test at Eden Park between the All Blacks and the Springboks was interrupted by a dramatic series of flares and flower bombs being dropped from the sky. I tried to go, but my husband wouldn't let me. Despite security around the ground having been the tightest of the tour, the anti-tour protests literally scaled new heights and they hired a Cessna aircraft. They captured the attention of the nation because they mobilised imagination, they galvanised the masses and they made the world hear their voice. That's what you and I need to do. That's the place that we're at this time. So we must do the same. Whānau eke pānuku, affirming whānau aspiration, says with defiance and deliberation, nothing about us without us. We are our own ultimate architects of our grand plan. No preconceived survey or dashboard or framework created by others will ever represent our aspirations unless those other authors and policy shapeshifters take our views on board. Our people are genuinely finding a way forward, and yet the government continues to look for problems, to analyse deficiency, to focus on data that divides rather than solutions. Where they should be providing ongoing investment across the range of portfolios, even some of our own who are in the House don't seem to trust us to do what we do. We must not be silent, we must not be invisible, we must not allow ourselves to be marginalised or seem to be missing in action. We are making our difference felt in every corner of Te Ao Māori. We are hearing the stories of hope, the case studies of courage, the platforms for transformation that right across Aotearoa are coming from the homes of whānau. We must share our talk, all of us, to become ambassadors for our whānau, beacons of hope that we can do and we can be for ourselves. I think I speak for us all that we loved hearing from Tā Mason, our closing speaker on Monday, reminding us that our ultimate aim is that whānau should be self-managing and having their own leadership, encouraging us to reflect that every whānau has a number of leaders. He told us firmly and clearly that the challenge of Whānau Ora is to build whānau leadership. So what is our next step? I believe that our greatest responsibility should be to insist that any definition of well-being without mentioning Whānau Ora is fundamentally flawed. We must demand that culture forms the intrinsic link to wellness, both across generations and across communities. We must require all agents of the Crown to identify the remedies by which they will rectify institutional racism, or what strategies they will initiate to increase cultural competency. We should resist any move to rename Whānau Ora, to reframe it as whānau development or a social wellbeing strategy. And most of all, we must turn to our whānau who have been born of greatness, and remind ourselves to place faith in us, to uphold the knowledge that our tūpuna dreamed ambitious plans for our mokopuna to live up to. We must never, ever lose hope in the ways in which we see the world, the knowledge by which we live, the gifts of wairua, of waiata or waiora. But we must make our voices heard. In our homes, on our marae, through our iwi radio, on Te Kaya and Te Karere, on Facebook and Twitter. Not that I know how to use those. The Minister for Whānau Ora told us himself, reminding us the battle cry of his grandfather, Tahimi Henare. You have come too far not to go further. You have done too much not to do any more. And I couldn't help but think to myself, have you really listened to those words? Are you doing that? Most of us hang on those words, but I wasn't quite sure about the Minister. Whānau Ora is us. It is ours, and we will continue to honour our connections, to take up our obligations and responsibilities, and to cherish our intimate identities as being the essence of who we are. The greatest review we can participate in is actually in our own hearts and minds, as we reflect on our dreams and aspirations and ask, who are we doing this for? Why is it important? What matters? The answer is The answer is undeniably straightforward. For our whānau, for today, and for all those who follow. Nā reira, ka nui te mihi ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.